Today is Billy Sheng. I sent out the information you gave about Minyawns. I know it's not Minyawns, it's Minyawns.
Like the one I sent out like 2.5 hours ago because I was late.
Yeah.
Okay.
After you told me you'd have it in earlier. I go, he's just like a student. He's not that far out of college. So he still behaves like a student. It's like, oh yeah, that's good. So I'm going to let you go, and there is going to be some photography or film going on. I don't know if people there, if you want to move or you can stay.
Sorry.
Cool. All right, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for coming to class. I guess a lot of you guys are doing better than I did because I didn't come to class that often. But Professor Stearns actually asked me to talk to you guys today about my story, my adventure, and why I'm doing entrepreneurship. So for me, background, I went to the University of Washington in Seattle, hence I'm wearing this Seattle jersey. We're playing Monday nights, go Hawks. But also, it wasn't too long ago where I was in your situation. I wanted to start a business. I was very interested in how to start a business. I just didn't really know what to do. So hopefully my story can help you guys. If you have any questions, save them to the end. I'd love to talk to you and answer your questions. So my theme today is, what is your story? Every entrepreneur has a story. And I think a lot of them you might hear, and a lot of them you know, but they're sometimes oversimplified. But here's a couple stories of people you might not know. So Mark Cuban is the owner of the Mavericks. And this guy's actually a pretty normal, regular guy. He went to Indiana University, and he worked at a software selling company where he worked for a guy, and they're selling software parts and hardware parts. And it turns out that he wanted to improve his sales, so instead of just physically selling you a computer or selling you software, he'd go to your house and actually install it for you, like very good customer service. Turns out that his boss didn't like that because they were a retail shop and not an outbound sales consulting group. And so he got fired from his first job after 9 months after securing the deal. So his quote is, the next day I came into your business software, that's the name of the store, had a smile on his face, check in hand after installing a piece of software for this customer, and he got fired by this guy named Michael, who is his current boss. After he got fired, he decided to start his own company, very similar. Was there for 7 years, and then I guess after that he did broadcast TV and made it big and bought the Mavs. Richard Branson, one of his stories for Virgin Airlines is that he and his wife were traveling in Costa Rica on one of the smaller islands, and their flight got canceled. And so he was like, crap, there's 50, 100 people stuck on this island, and we're stuck here for a day or two. So he called up a charter airlines and asked them, how much will it cost to fly from this tiny island to Costa Rica? They gave him a price, and he went around with a cardboard cutout sign that says $39 from here to here, and everybody who missed the airline went on his flight, and he made money from it. So a little sample of cool little stories that everybody has. The one that you might have heard of that's pretty recent now is called Airbnb. So they do vacation homes for 1, 2, 3 days where you can actually live in someone else's house. So if you have a house and you're not using it and you want to rent it to other people with space, you can go on this website, and they've got houses from anywhere from Fresno, Seattle, any vacation home spots, and they're global now. But how they started were, they actually ran out of money their first time. So they failed miserably, ended up blowing through like $30,000, $40,000 that they saved, and had just simply no money. And so during the 2008 election, they made these cereal boxes. So they printed out the Obama O's and Captain McCain's cereal boxes, then went to Costco, bought real cereal, and then filled them up to create cereal where they sold it for $30 each in front of campaign elections and other speaker houses. Raised the money again, and then someone thought that was really impressive. They got into Y Combinator and then blew up ever since. So they're also a billion-dollar company now. My story definitely isn't as cool because I am nowhere as successful as they are, trying to be, but not there yet. And so my story kind of starts, I've been doing Minyawns for a year, and it went from sleeping in my office with that sleeping bag to kind of having a nicer office and a bigger team and kind of knowing what to do. So here's my experience about where I've been for 1 year and kind of where I want to go. So the question is, we know a lot of things about entrepreneurship in theory. We know we have to sell, we know we have to get target customers. So actually, how do we start? And the ultimate thing is you have to start doing stuff and doing things. So my company is called Minyawns, and we do one-day jobs for college students. So when I was back in college, I want to make some pickup cash. I lived in a fraternity where like every week we had to pay like 20, 30 bucks for girls to get alcohol. It didn't make sense to me, it still doesn't make sense to me. And of course I didn't want to ask my parents, hey parents, like can I have some money to buy alcohol? I was over 21, everybody's over 21. Disclaimer right there. And so I looked in the school newspaper, I looked in bulletin boards, and they had research projects where you can go in and you would listen to different sounds and you'd click A or B depending on which one's higher because they needed studies and participants. So I was like, cool, I can make a quick $30 extra and then be out of there. Didn't take me interviewing, get it in, get out, and then get paid. And so that's what I came up with. I was like, everybody wants to make some extra pickup cash. It's a matter of how do we do it? And there's no platform, there's no app to do it currently, and that's what I went out to build. So I came up with this minimal viable product. You guys might have heard the phrase. It's called the MVP, which is the basic form of any company to see and test if it's profitable, if it works. So I went and I asked all my friends, I said, hey, would you guys be interested in one-day jobs? And they said, yeah, that sounds really cool. And I was like, well, give me your name. Well, I already knew their name, actually. I was like, give me your email address, and I'll put you on the list. So I got 50 names, and I got the list, and I was like, okay, cool. Now I need to get a business or company to want these students. So I went on Craigslist and started making phone calls. Called a lot of people, said, hey, we've got these elite, reliable University of Washington students to help you with a one-day task if you have any tasks that you need help with. And a majority of them said, oh, that's a great idea, sorry, we don't have anything. Rejected like 10 times, felt really sad. Eventually someone said, yes, I run a butcher shop and we just started our blog. We need a writer to write us one blog article. It says, I'll pay you 30 bucks, it shouldn't take more than 45 minutes. Who's interested? And I said, awesome, great opportunity, send out an email. Got an English major who was like, yeah, that sounds pretty cool, and that was our first Minyawns job. Now we've extended to doing event companies where you might be a course monitor for a race, or you might be a brand ambassador for a big company trying to sell their product. So a lot of different things. And so that was how I came up with our first minimal viable product. As you can see, it wasn't even Excel, it was like Microsoft Word because I wasn't even that talented. So just putting together a list and making calls and testing out and getting out there is the most important thing. And these were our first ads, right? So when you're doing business, you want to test things out. And I think it starts very, very early where you can test out what converts better. So we put 2 ads out, getting students to sign up for this list. One of them, we had a cute little girl counting pennies. And the other one, we had a more attractive girl holding out dollar bill signs. And we put them all over campus, and we were like, okay, which one do people like? Turns out that we didn't put different URLs, and we direct people to the same URL, so we didn't know which one was converting well. But mistake number 1, but you can make this really simply, and just putting things out there. This was within the first couple of weeks we started to do it. And so one thing I hear a lot about excuses nowadays is, I'm not a web developer, I'm not a business guy, like I want to build an app, what do I do, right? I think a lot of you guys probably have this idea, but you're like, man, I'm not a software developer, I can't make it. And I'm telling you right now, don't let that be an excuse, because for me, I didn't go to business school, I wasn't a computer scientist, I did civil engineering, and I basically had no skills that were useful for entrepreneurship. But you network around and you start talking to people and they say, hey, you just gotta do it. So what they said is, if you want to build a website, hand draw and sketch out what you want your website to look like. So I sat there, I took a white piece of paper out, and I started sketching out what each page wants to look like. And then you put that into Paint or PowerPoint, and you basically make a ton of images of how your website would work in theory, even if it doesn't work. So I wanted to show you something super early of what I wanted the website to look like without any bit of code. Let's see if this works. Okay, so this is an app called Envision app. Oh. All right, so things go wrong all the time, and let's see. There we go. Sweet, okay. So this is actually, these are all pictures. So I did everything on PowerPoint or Paint, and it's literally not a website, so these are all separate JPEG files. And what you can do with this app is you can link pictures together and then create hotspots where you click. So if you see, like, all these are separate images, none of this actually works, and it's just a bunch of pictures that you put together. So this was my minimum viable product round 2, where I was basically putting all together these images where I would copy and paste, use clip screen to put a whole bunch of stuff together and show people what my website would look like if I could build it. After this, you can put it on Elance or Guru, which are outsourcing sites where you can get Indian developers. So I put this project, I sent it on a link to people, and I asked Indian developers how much it would cost for them to build this product. It turns out it's somewhere around $2,000 to $3,000. So I said, okay, cool, now I need to raise some money. So I went to family and friends and said, here's what my website's going to look like. Would you support me? And so you talk to a lot of different people. I actually took this link, just the link, not even the website, and walked around downtown Seattle, walked into the store, said, hey, can I show you something that is going to be built, and would you use it? So that's a great way initially to even test out to see, are people interested in what you have to offer? Are people interested in the product that you're building? So it's a great way to find your product market fit. And so after that happened, we made a couple tweaks, and we actually got our website built from that initial Indian developer. So this is within the first 3-4 months. So you could legitimately start this whenever you needed to, or whenever you wanted to. And so I think that's a really good example of how you get a product built without even knowing code. And afterwards, while you work on your business, you can learn coding on the side. But there is no excuse. There is no excuse for not knowing how to code to start your business. So the next thing I think people should do is everybody should pick up the phone and call. One of the worst feelings that you'll ever get doing sales or entrepreneurship is either rejection, either a customer saying, hey, I don't like your product, or I don't think I'm going to use it. I think rejection is the best way to get more motivated, believe what you truly believe in, and cement that belief and getting out there. So any of you who haven't done cold calls, I highly recommend it. It's terrible, it sucks, but after a while, it does not get better, but it's something you need to do. Cold calling is really important. I think everybody's done cold calling in their life before. So we started off very humble beginnings, where I lived in a tent in an office building in Fresno. This is when I came to Fresno for additional funding. And don't feel like your office space defines you. Don't care that what you have around you, and don't seem like you're a cool company when you actually aren't. So a lot of companies that you can name all started from their parents' garage, and there's a reason for that, because they knew that their customers are more valuable than what they appear on the outside. And then we started growing a little bit. So got more customers, you do some PR, you get people on campus, and you see traction pick up, and that's really cool that all this work you're putting into actually has an effect and is actually doing something. So this is probably around month 7, month 8. We were on campus recruiting in Fresno State, and we got pictures from our minions at work. So these two people were they were at Brewfest, and they were pouring beers for local vendors. These two people were actually doing video game testing, where they went in for a couple hours, played this new video game, and got paid for it. Different example of Minyawns jobs. This one actually took place in Fresno. It's with a local catering company who needed Minyawns people to help run catering. And then on the right, we've got some course monitors for 5Ks and some labor people to help do production assistance. So when you put in the work, get the customers, you'll actually end up with some results, and that kind of makes you happy. So it's been a year now, and I guess my question is, what did I learn? And I think the 3 biggest lessons I've learned I decided to use hashtags because, I don't know, my friend said I didn't know how to use hashtags and I'm trying to learn. The first one is hustle like a hobo. And you might think that's kind of weird, but in my group of friends nowadays, people are slinging around the term, I respect your hustle. Honestly, I have no idea what that means, and I have no idea where people came up with that term. But what I think it means is, I respect your passion and your effort that you're putting into whatever you're doing, even if I don't respect what you're doing. And for me, I think the best example are, hobos in Seattle at least, are notorious for being creative and notorious for never giving up. So you see the same homeless person on the same block, might with different signs. So maybe one day, they've got a sign that says, hey, I like weed, I'm not lying, like I'm gonna spend money on weed. And people give them money, right? And they figure out that, hey, this only converts about 5% of people. Maybe 5% of people will give me money. And then they change the sign to, I bet you can't hit me with $1. Maybe that is like, or coins, like dollar coins, quarters, something like that. And maybe they get like 7% of people to give them money. But the cool thing about that is, when you say no or when you don't give them money, they don't feel dejected, or I guess they're very good at masking it, and they're out there every single day. And that's an entrepreneur mindset that they have that I really respect, that when people tell you no, you keep going for it and you keep trying to move that needle. So lesson number one is hustle like a hobo. The second one is respect. And there's a 2 because Derek Jeter retired. And he's someone that people really respect, but he's also someone who I feel like has improved himself and is all about self-improvement. One thing in entrepreneurship you're going to learn is you can become a better person in every single different way possible. When you're doing entrepreneurship, you don't know sales, you don't know marketing, you don't know computer science, and you're constantly learning to get better at each one of these things. Compared to maybe if you work for a traditional industry or a big company and they want you to do financial analysis, right? You might get really good at doing accounting and financial analysis, but you don't have that broad spectrum you get from entrepreneurship, where you're learning how to sell, you're learning how to interact with people, and you're thrown in so many different environments that you've got to learn self-discipline, self-respect, and ultimately learn a bunch of business skills that you're going to need later. And the last one is go on your adventure. And this is, I think, one of the most important ones, and the one I emphasize a ton because it's really important. I've got a lot of friends who like working at big companies, and they say, hey, after college they work for a company, and what happens is they're in there for maybe 40, 50 hours a week, and they say, hey, this is nice, on the weekends we get to hang out, or we get to go out. But it turns to be a huge cycle for them where they don't know if they're happy or not. You can ask people, some are, some aren't, and they do the same thing every week and same thing every weekend. I think one thing that entrepreneurship is amazing and awesome is you really choose your own adventure. You get a guest lecture in front of Fresno State students if you want to. You get to go to meetups if you want to. You get thrown into so many different scenarios and have so many different opportunities that it's really amazing. And I call it basically the office adventure, where you're exploring different things, you're going on different journeys, and you never know what's going to happen. And that's pretty much it, yeah. So anyways, thank you for listening to me. I encourage you guys to do, if you know you want to do your own startup, please do. And don't let anything deter you from that. And if you guys have any questions, you can email me at billy@minyawns.com. I promise I'll answer, maybe not right away. But I love helping students and anyone who is interested in getting started up, because we've all been there, and we're going to need help in the future too. So thank you very much. So now I'll take questions, if anyone has any questions. Yes?
Yeah, for a company like this, what type of administrators do you need? Like, to verify that this is like, do you verify that these are like actual companies, or is it just like day labor kind of stuff? Is that acceptable too?
So usually, for our business, we work with exclusively individual business owners. So usually we don't try to do a task rabbit route where random people are asking students to do stuff. It's business owners who are looking for personal assistance.
Right. How do you verify that?
You can usually, it's really easy to tell if a business is legitimate within the first like 5 seconds, because it's 2014. They have a website.
Do you do that, or is that an employee?
I do that, yeah. Or our sales team. does that. Yes.
So when you sign up on your website, do you create would I create like a profile for myself or something?
Yeah, you can actually, if you go to Minyawns.com, you can test it out right now. But you create a profile, and if you want, I can pull it up for you later. I don't want to deal with that. Yeah. But yeah, so each student has their profile card, which has their picture, has a link to the LinkedIn profile if they have one, has reviews on past jobs they've done. So, thank you. Yes.
How did you protect your idea when you presented it to the developers?
Great question. Okay, so protecting your idea is, I think, lesson 101 in entrepreneurship is people might steal your idea, but you should never be afraid of doing your idea and being afraid that people are going to steal it. If you look at any successful entrepreneur, people who started Uber, they're always more successful than someone who stole your idea. I guess entrepreneurship is very hard and the path is really long, where if you're not creating your own company and you're stealing someone else's company, you're not going to have that passion and drive to last forever. So you can do a quick research. I don't think there's any successful people who stole a business model or stole an idea. Yeah. This works that's really important for services before, like products. If you're building a product, it might be more important to protect your intellectual property. Yes, in the back.
How do you make money? How are you getting paid?
Great question. We take a 10% cut on jobs that are posted from businesses. So if a business posts it as $100 for 4 hours, the student would see it as $90. Yes?
How are you different from TaskRabbit?
Great question. So TaskRabbit actually does neighbors helping neighbors. That's their big target, where a lot of their sales comes from IKEA assembly, or let's say I need groceries being picked up, right? We do exclusively a large group of students, like maybe 10, 15 students, helping out a company for a day. Yes?
What do you think your main barrier to growth is?
So that's what we're trying to do right now. So year 2, we're trying to scale. And your main barrier to growth is getting enough businesses to post jobs. It's easy for us to get students. Everybody wants to work when they want to. But finding enough jobs to post as businesses is pretty difficult.
What's the next city you're looking to expand to?
Probably Portland. It's close to Seattle. It's got a very solid base, and yeah, there's great schools around it too. But we'll probably think about that like year 3.
What made you come to Fresno?
So we came to Fresno originally to go after an EB-5 funding, and that's unique to Fresno State and Fresno, the county, and I guess as a whole. But we actually stayed in Fresno because the location's great. It's close to LA, it's close to Silicon Valley, and it's a great place to test out a secondary market. So like if you guys get the chance to, on the weekends and you want to go and learn about what they're doing over in San Francisco and San Jose, just drive up there, join a meetup, talk to people there. It's really cool. Yes.
Maybe you should explain what meetups are, because like not everyone knows what they are.
Okay, so meetups, a good way to network is going to kind of group networking events, and a good website is meetup.com, where people who are interested in the same hobbies will actually get together on Saturdays to maybe talk about something. They've got rock climbing meetups, they've got running meetups. Good way to meet people and network. Yes.
So we all know your horror story about cold calling, but entrepreneurship is awesome. Is there anything horrible you learned about entrepreneurship besides cold calling?
There's more things that are horrible about entrepreneurship than good things. So people usually try to highlight the good things. The average success rate for a startup is 99% failure. And there's a lot of things that I could say that are not fun about startups. That one, you're by yourself, or if you have a co-founder, there's a lot of, I guess, power struggles, there's discipline, there's a lot of different things and a lot of different reasons why you shouldn't do a startup. But I think it's important to focus on why you should do one.
Have you thought about like doing Y Combinator or anything?
So Y Combinator is awesome. We actually are too late in our stage of growth for Y Combinator. But I highly suggest incubators if you get into one. Yeah, those are always really good. And you meet really great people. A lot of success stories came out of combinators too, or incubators. All right.
Wait a minute, do you wish you were a civil engineer?
So yeah, I was a civil engineer.
Well, I mean,
And the reason, huge fan of civil engineering, if there's any civil engineers out there, awesome, best department and program at the University of Washington. But the reason why I didn't do civil engineering immediately is because it's a very stable industry. You go work and you get paid anywhere from $40,000 to $60,000, and you just slowly climb the ranks of that ladder. My dad was a civil engineer for 25 years, so I know what it's like. It works if you're supporting a family, if you want something stable, but I feel like when we're young, and there's a lot of opportunities out there that you just got to go for it when you still can. Yes?
How did you come up with this idea?
It was, I think I talked a little bit about it earlier when I needed some extra pickup cash. And I was like, man, what are good ways to make extra money? People like college students, and for me it was, I want to build a platform where everybody who wants to make some pickup cash has an opportunity to do so.
So you are looking for a way to pick up cash, and there is no way, so you come up with the idea.
Exactly, yeah. I think right now a lot of us don't go to bulletin boards, we don't look in school newspapers. Maybe we'll go on Craigslist, but if you look on Craigslist, it's pretty shady. So I think an app, so right now we're building a mobile app, we have a web app right now, but a better and easier process for students to get these one-day jobs and then businesses to recruit talent that they trust.
On average, like how many job postings per week do you get from businesses in Fresno?
In Fresno, it's pretty low. So we just launched in Fresno probably a month ago, and it's like 1 or 2. So we're trying to get that number higher. We're trying to optimize that. But in Seattle, it's around, we'll give out to students around like $1,000, $2,000 a week, depending on the size of the job. Yes.
So the businesses post on there, and then everybody with their profile that's in your website, they just go on there and go, oh, I can do that?
Yeah.
Or, oh.
So like, let's say there's a color run that's happening next weekend, and you're free from 6 a.m. to 12 p.m. You're like, okay, well, I'm free that time, and I'm going to sign up, and then you might get chosen. In the back.
So you know how you made the flyers for the students to go find jobs on the website?
Yes.
Have you made flyers to give the businesses to post on the website?
So flyers for us, so answer your question directly, no. Flyers for us they're considered kind of offline advertisements, and they don't convert very well for us. Their percentage is really low. So if we print like 1,000 ads and we put them all over campus, for businesses wise, we might not even get 2 businesses to sign up. So
do you do other types of ways to like try to get them?
So our main traction channels are we do Twitter and we do social. So we follow them on Twitter, and then we'll tweet at them, and then we'll find them on LinkedIn, and then we'll try to get a mutual connection there, and then get a meeting. And then from that meeting, we can usually sign them on board. That's one of our big ones. Cold calling still remains one of our big ones, and email marketing for us works really well. So those are the 3 big traction points. Yes?
How do you handle like liability if somebody gets hurt?
Great question. So because, I guess it depends. When Uber first started off, or when Airbnb first started off, they said that if you use our website, you assume total risk for what happens to your house. That works until you get really big and the press gets, and if one thing goes bad, I think it's really hard for you to say, like, because you use our website, you're screwed, something bad happens. For us, we're small scale enough where that hasn't happened, but what you want to look into is bonding insurance. That's what a lot of people do, and just personal insurance for each one of your students. Yes?
You said this has been going on for a year, right?
Correct.
So why do you think your business is a success compared to everybody else, like the 99% that isn't?
So we're still in the 99%. Yeah. So when you do a startup, you're usually losing money, burning money until you get really big. So we're still in that 99%, and there's still a huge chance of failure. But I think the biggest thing, or our advantage, is that you just gotta put in the effort and put in the work, and that's just going to make you more successful. and understand your customers.
Are you doing like a flat rate, or depending on the job, is the cost of the service?
They pick the rate, so the businesses choose their own rate.
It sounds like you're making like a few $100 a week or so. How are you living?
Terribly. I exhausted my entire bank account. And that's one thing in entrepreneurship that you got to realize is sometimes you can't have like you can't live the way you want to if you're bootstrapping a startup, right? For me, luckily, like when I go back to Seattle, I'm living with my parents, and I'm working out of my like my mom's living room. Or we'll go to coffee shops. But yeah, I'm definitely not living as comfortably as I could or I would. But I'm a pretty low maintenance guy. Give me a computer, let me watch some Seahawks games, and I'll be okay.
You ever feel like quitting?
Yes, a lot. But you just don't do it now.
How do you persevere through all those tough times?
That's the one thing that you'll learn is how to persevere, when to pivot, and when to know that you've exhausted and given it all. I'm a huge believer that no matter what you do, you should give 100%. And if you give 100% and fail, okay, cool, that's how you know how to fail. But until you feel like you've given everything your all, then you shouldn't quit.
At what point would you say you've made it and that your business is a success?
The only point you've made it is when you have an exit strategy. Your exit strategy works, and you can leave the money with cash in hand. A lot of people I know are paper millionaires where their company might be worth, I think people see this a lot too. There's startups that have really crazy high valuations, like their company's worth like $45 million, but on paper they're millionaires, but they're never going to sell their company, or their company's never going to IPO. So I think for money-wise, you've only made it when you have cash in hand. My personal success is, I believe that I'm going to try to make a lot of money, and then donate the money to Emma Watson's Foundation and go on one date with Emma Watson. And that is my hopefully that'll be soon and not later.
The strategy of college students was a strategy Facebook used. And then later on, of course, you made it open. I mean, is that your strategy, or is it no? I would stay with college.
That might be like maybe down the line, yes. But you're absolutely right. Facebook, they focus on college students and being a social network for college students only, and they grew that way. I think for us, perhaps, we haven't thought that far ahead yet. In the back.
How do you verify the college students?
For the University of Washington, one easy trick is to have college emails. That's an easy one. And two, I know the UW releases all their student directory information of them, so you can just do a simple search.
Aren't you ever tempted to just go into engineering?
No, because I think for me, every time I go back and I talk to a couple of my friends, I love what I'm doing right now. I honestly do, even though sometimes it sucks. But at this point, I'm young, don't have a family, don't have very many obligations, so I don't really need the money, I guess. But there's going to be temptations all around. I think it's a matter of staying focused and knowing that at the end of the day, your reward could be greater than everything you've missed. But if you have FOMO, then you're kind of screwed.
Do you want to show the site?
Yeah, I can show you guys the site. Yes.
How old are you?
That's a great question, which I don't know if it's appropriate, but I'm actually 23.
Oh, okay. You seem
No
really
way.
young, so I just wanted to know.
Oh, okay. How old did you think I was?
I actually thought 23.
Oh, okay.
You look 28.
This is our site.
That's it.
I got a question. Let's say somebody didn't want to go it alone, right? And they wanted to get a partner
Mm-hmm.
for their company.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a formula or a system set up to qualify somebody as a potential partner or a co-founder? Or do you just use your gut instinct and hire your friends?
So the one thing I would advise against is hiring your friends as your co-founders, unless you're going into it together and you split it 50-50. One of the big reasons why companies fail is co-founders get in disputes. There is current sites like cofounderdating.com, a lot of different networking sites where you can try to meet like-minded people as a co-founder. Did I answer your question?
No.
Okay. Sorry, can you repeat it again?
So aside from co-founder dating then, what do you, when you go on this date, you have to talk and ask questions, right, to figure out if this person is good for your company and for you, like both culturally and technically.
Right.
Do you have like a set of questions to ask them? Do you have a formula set up to actually just qualify them as you go down the list?
So for me, if I'm hiring a new employee, one of the things I like to do is I like to bring them on for 3 or 4 weeks. If you work with someone closely for 3 or 4 weeks, you can usually tell what kind of person they are, what their work habits are. And especially after kind of week 6, week 7, you do notice a drop off. Everybody goes through a honeymoon stage where if you're in a new company, you're really excited about it, but it's after that drop off where you see who they really are. So if you work closely with someone, trust your gut instincts because they will tell you if that person's good for you or not. Yes?
You thought about merging your site with like something like LinkedIn where they can have, like you have like a little button on their site to take you to...
There is actually that. So, yeah. So this is our Seattle site. What's the mouse?
I got a question.
So we've got a lot of video game testing ones right now. And let's say we click on this. So this is a video game. Company, and these are the minions that have applied. So as you see right here, they have their reviews and ratings. If you click on their profile, you can see their past jobs. And then there is that LinkedIn where if you click on their LinkedIn and they have one, it'll take you to that site. But this person probably doesn't have one, and they're not required to. It's just an extra set of things where if you are interested, you can add it. Yeah. In the back.
To go back to that liability thing, were you suggesting that the companies that hire the unions get bonding, or your company gets bonding?
Our company gets bonding insurance. Before, the way our business currently works is that each student is responsible for their own insurance because they operate as independent contractors. Yes?
Do you need to post any cover letters or resumes in order to apply for one of your jobs?
For our purposes, I really want the website to not turn into a job posting board where you're spending a lot of time uploading your resume, doing interviews. The whole point for us is because it's a one-day job, we believe that the customers, when they see a profile picture like that and they kind of looked into some of the things you are, can make the judgment that this person's going to be good for me for one day. Of course, if you're hiring for long-term, resumes, interviews, things like that come into play. Yes?
What is your goal in 5 years?
It's a great question. Ultimately, everybody's goal in 5 years for a startup is to IPO or get bought out by Google or Amazon, someone like that. We want to be in every single nation and become the marketplace of temporary work, replacing traditional staffing agencies in about 5 years. I also probably don't want to live in my parents' house in 5 years. Yes?
Is there a fee to sign up?
There's no fee to sign up, no. Should I make one? All right, thank you, everybody. It was a pleasure to be here.